Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Hollywood After Dark. This, of course, is the 24th of October, 2021. Eternals, not doing as good as it could be. Ruby Rose strikes back, and Dune overperforms. Let's talk about all that and more right effing now. Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing? Welcome back to Hollywood After Dark. Of course, it is Sunday night. It is the top of the week, really, if you think about it, especially for the late night hours that I tend to put out there. It's been a hell of a weekend. I'm finally feeling a little bit better. I still have a bit of a cough. It's not so bad. It may not be showing up tonight at all. Definitely not as bad as it was last week. Ultimately feeling fine. Worst part of this whole experience, I had to administer a COVID test on a near 4-year-old today who was scared shitless because, of course she would be. Here's this gigantic white cotton swab that's supposed to go inside of her nose. That was terrible. But it got me thinking. It got me thinking a little bit just about everything, and I'm probably going to come to a decision about the future of the show towards the end of the week, maybe the end of the month, and just kind of figure out where I want to take things because, I don't know. Maybe it's a midlife crisis. I looked into that too. Apparently 35 to 65 years old is that midlife crisis. I'm 39. Maybe I'm feeling it. I just want to keep you guys in the loop as always. But before we dive in too far, why don't we say hello, say hi, give shout out to our lovely supporters here. We have the IMAX crew coming in, the top tier of the channel supporters. Thank you guys. We're followed by the Prime members. And then also the wonderful, amazing matinee people. Look at all those wonderful names. Thank you guys. If you want to get your names on any one of these lists, it's very easy to do. $2, $5, $10, whatever you want to help out the channel. Great way to do that. And when you do that, it gets you in for a drawing, a potential winner. This month, of course, is the 4K Ultra UHD John Carpenter's seminal 1982 horror classic, The Thing. One of my personal favorite movies, and of course, one of yours too. So if you don't have it on 4K, or you just want to get it again before Christmas time rolls around, you can give someone out there a gift that keeps on giving. That's going to be something fun for you to look at. And of course, I don't want to sit there and chill too much. I want to get into the action because my friend tonight only has a few minutes before he has to go to bed because, you know, corporate America calls. And of course, that is Mad Max The Mandalorian. How you doing, Max?
I'm great. And I'm really enjoying movie talk. And please do not go anywhere, Matt Jarbo. You're part of the reason I came back. You and Staggy Melons.
I don't intend on quitting. It's just slowing how many streams down is generally where I'm at.
Maybe take one. Maybe do one night off for everyone. It'll get your passion back into it. And on it, yes, I 100% was gonna quit. I only came back because of you and all my friends, but you and Saggy really pushed me. That stream she did, and then you constantly mocking me, saying there's a topic, talk about it. I was like, damn you, Jarbo. You did that all the time. I did mock you a lot, yeah. You bugged the hell out of me, and I'm like, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't care. And I did care. And that's honestly your constant nagging. In saying, hey, did you hear about this? And then you're like, well, you should talk about it. So we all need you. We all need Matt Jarbo around. For sure. Well,
it's not that here's the thing. It's not that I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? It's not that I don't want to stream. It's literally, and I talked about this the other night a bit as well. It's literally all about like where I'm just at in my own life. Right. You know, I turned 40 in less than 6 months.
Me too.
I've had a hell of a last couple years, you know, and not to say that it's all bad or whatever, because it's not. It's actually, things have been pretty good. It's just like I ask myself mostly what's my legacy, and like this weekend with this Rust thing and the accidental shooting, and then like just listening to Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers and how they're trying to spin it.
So nasty.
And how you got people like Ryan Kendall on Friday Night Tights, like ultimately saying like, no, let's bully people even more. Because this was on Enosh's stream. They talked about that and this little clip from this last week or whatever. And it's like, These are truly terrible effing people. You know what I
Wow.
mean? Like these are bad people. These are and all they do is they make me angry. And that
Well,
all that gets me to do is I just want to fight them. I just want to fight them, Max.
I
You know what I
think
mean?
you know what, Jarbo, you have a voice that really helps with critical, but maybe try not to take it so go take the anger so much either. But dismantling what they do and exposing it is important too. And I understand not wanting that to be your focus either. You want to just talk about movies. But I think all these conversations are really important. Like the conversation how we treat people in the entertainment industry, how we're treating Alec Baldwin when this is the worst moment of his life, and acting and then just treating him like garbage. And then like what you just said there, I didn't even hear that about we should be more aggressive. Bullshit. No, that's not how to treat people in the industry that provide our entertainment. These are people. Treat them like people. You know,
Yeah, I mean
I
that's
just
kind of the whole point is that
it's
that they
this
don't
weird
want
thing
to.
on social media. It's like team YouTube and team people on the internet. We just get to throw shit at everyone. You just got to take it. And if you even respond to us, we're going to give you hell. I mean, that's basically it. They're just waiting for someone to
Well, part
respond
of
to them.
me, and that's the thing is I take this shit personally. I
Yeah,
do.
rational skeptic.
Oh, I see that. I became a new member. Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate that. Or I don't know if you upped your membership. I can't tell from StreamYard. Let me go to the control room because I haven't done that yet. It's really, again, it's like, this is the world that I lived in for years. And it's a world that I really love. Oh, we upped it to IMAX setting. Wow. Thank you very much, man. I'll definitely update the graphic. Thank you. I think a big part of it for me has a lot to do with just like, I don't feel fulfilled. That's my thing, right? That's my element with it. I don't personally feel fulfilled. So I'll be honest with you guys. I'll just kind of open up a little bit here. So like over the course of the past couple years, not just everything that happened with like the Boulder stuff or whatever, having kids, having being a work at home parent, and struggling with seasonal effectiveness disorder, I get real bad in the winter because it's just there's no sunlight, it's just darkness. And even now, as we're moving into the darker time of year, it does get a bit difficult. But the key that's been really helping me out the last couple of weeks has been able to go to the library when I take my kid to school and then go and work on something, right? I've been working on the Stranger Days and everything else, trying to like go and write some podcasts. In fact, I actually spent the other night really just kind of working on this graphic right here to as like a podcast logo and stuff, just as a way to like kind of work on this and tell these stories. Because for me, like that is I being creative. That is at least leaving a mark. That's doing something of some value, whether it's intrinsic or not. It could have some impact on someone's life. That has been good for me. This last week with my kid being home, it kind of sent me back down into that kind of spiral because it's like what I was really enjoying. I mean, she was sick. I can't, nothing we can do about that. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, I had to take her to get a COVID test today in order to, allow her to go back to school. She had to test negative. Thankfully she did, but it's like all of this stuff, everything. And it's like, that's where I'm at. It's like, I haven't watched DUNE yet. As I told you before, haven't been able to find the time, sit down and watch it. I might start it tonight, do an hour and a half or whatever, and come back tomorrow.
That's honestly, I have a busy life, not as busy as you, because kids throws a monkey wrench at that. But I take care of my parents, and my nieces are always calling me for stuff. So that's how I've been able to manage watching things. I watch it in chunks. Like I could not get a whole 2.5 hours to watch Dune. I had to split it up. But
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
it's definitely like I thought about going and seeing it tonight in the theater. And then, of course, like I did delivery driving and everything. And, and I just kind of like got done. I'm like, I don't really want to go and like drive back over to the theater. It becomes harder. Do you know, there's even a thing now where I was reading that the vast majority of moviegoers are wanting movies to be streamed at home.
Yeah, me too.
Right. And that's kind of, I mean,
Part of
I
it's
know.
getting my old boomer. I fall asleep at the theater. Now I could stop it. Like, but it's because I do so much. It's so much. My life is so busy right now.
Yeah.
So by the time I get to the theater, I'm like falling asleep.
And it's not, for me, it's not even like the concept of like the cost. I don't mind paying the cost when I want to go see something. I like being able to go to a theater and escape, but there's times where I'm like, give me the option for both. You know what I mean? Like I had the option to watch Black Widow at home. I still went to go see it in theaters. I had the option to watch Army of Dead at home. I went to go see it in theaters. You know, like, but then again, movies like Boss Baby, I could have gone and seen the theaters. I chose to watch at home. Halloween Kills, I'll probably end up watching at home.
I would say don't spend the money on the theater in that one. I was not
Yeah,
impressed.
I was told. Some of my friends love it. Some of my friends hate it. Very similar to
I
Dune.
like the last one a lot.
So, but I mean, but this one, yeah, but this one only had like a $20 million budget apparently. Like they're just like they're low budget,
Mm.
and so, but
Which
it's making money.
that's also disappointing based on how much the last one did. They should have put a little more money into it.
So it's well, I mean, it's mostly about story in these particular situations. I think is generally the whole concept. But what I mean by it is that, you know, it's like, look, Matrix, like Dune, I want to see in a big theater. I see Cam there saying that, you know, you should see it and you should see it in a you know, huge auditorium. But Protoss there says, you know, it says I could have lived seeing Dune at home. It wasn't all that great. No actor stood out. So again, it's kind of hit or miss. I have friends of mine that saw it, that loved it, friends of mine that saw it and hated it. And you know, but then I'm like, well, I've got a nice pair of headphones and I've got a 55-inch, you know, 4K television in my bedroom. I can sit there and, you know, I watched the Snyder Cut on that TV. It looked wonderful. I don't, you know, maybe Dune, it's still a big TV. It's a, you know, in a small, you know, so it doesn't, I'm not going to be able to see an IMAX. I know that much, but you know, it's like still it's finding that time to go and
You know
like
what?
picking and choosing.
What the most important thing is watching and, you know, also having some time for you. So I know it would be better to get to the theater, but if you could just chill and watch it, just do it.
Well, that
That's
was
what
the
I
thing. Like
say.
when I got sick last week, I actually was able to sit down and check out Squid Game.
Yeah. I
And
didn't finish that one yet.
man, it's been on my mind ever since. Like it's legitimately been on my mind ever since. Like I think I need to go watch it again to get it the hell off my mind. That is how much I enjoyed Squid Game. I've watched a bunch of lore videos on Squid Game. I've watched a bunch of like behind the scenes, like, did you know that the actors couldn't do this sort of videos on Squid Game? And I'm like, wow, that's actually really fascinating.
Hmm.
You know, and it's like, but and the show was really good. And of course, you know, I'm waiting for the eventual remake the English remake that will happen for all the people that are complaining about having to read the subtitles, you know. But it's just like it, but that to me is kind of where things are. It's just sitting down and watching things is one aspect of it. And then also like what do I want to create as a creator? What is it that I want to say? What is it that I want to put out there? You know, I like doing audio commentary, but that takes time to you know, to write and get all, you know. And then for me, I'll tell you guys, this is the biggest fucking factor. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and it's OCD. I have OCD on it, and so because of what happened over the course of the last 3 years, because of that sustained harassment that I got when everything went down, whether or not you agree I was at fault or whatever your opinion, the fallout from that was pretty fucking insane. I then have this protective layer around myself that makes it so I'm kind of like very paranoid about doing anything. So this kind of feels like it's just the easiest thing. Talk about a news article, go from there. But it's not always the most fulfilling.
Hmm.
And that's where I'm at as a creator, as a person who has written movies and produced movies and directed movies, starred in movies. You know what I mean? Like to me, it's like, what is it that I can do that's going to be partly my talent, as well as being able to like convey those feelings to other people and put my thoughts out there. And honestly, it's like reviewing is a lot of fun, albeit it's a slower process. And that is the other part of my brain that likes to run at like 800 miles an hour, you know? Like I'll tell you guys this, I'm never more in my element than when I'm high on caffeine and I am in the zone and I have a deadline. That is when I'm in my element. That is when it's like, get the fuck out of my way.
Manic, though.
It's very manic. It's very weird. It's not the best mentally, but it's like, that's when I'm in my element, where it's like, you put me up against the time clock and you give me what I need, which is like generally copious amounts of caffeine. Cause I don't do any other drugs. And then, you know, the right kind of music, the right kind of environment, and bam, I'm good, you know, and I'll sit there.
Could you alternate, do like a live stream and then do like a hot topic car video or in your studio? because
It's
I
kind
miss
of,
those
well,
too. Those are doing pretty good.
I was trying to think of ways to do like the stream at night and then just do one kind of standalone video in the day. But again, it's like I usually because because I'm tired, I come home and I take a nap when when I get home from taking my kid to school. So, I got to figure all that stuff out. And then it's also trying to find the right topic. And I don't want to necessarily rehash what I went over in the live stream because I do tend to do a lot of the timestamps and everything. So it ends up being this weird kind of like amalgamation or a big problem. And what's funny too is I have this service I pay for called vidIQ, and they just and I've been using them for years, and I like them.
I
And
use the
recommend.
free version.
Well, have you seen their daily ideas now? Have you seen those things that they have?
Because I don't pay for it. Yeah.
Well, you get 3 even if you don't pay for it.
Oh, okay.
They give you like if they use AI, and the AI is meant to look at you and your competitors, and then it will prompt you with like different AI generated video ideas per day, right? For me, it's 50 a day because I pay for the premium, which by the way, because I know the owner, I only pay half. So that's where it's like, I'm not paying no $50 a month for that, but I'll pay 25. That's fine. And I'm looking at the ones today and it's all like Dave Chappelle versus cancel culture is all of them. Right. And then it's like all of this like political shit. I'm like, dude, this isn't even tied into like, what are you talking about? Like, how is this tied into freaking movies? So the system is learning. It's very interesting how it all kind of plays out. So the last sane one here says, I will admit I got spoiled on Squid Game before I watched it, so none of the twists hit me. No, I was honestly like, I saw a lot of what the twists coming in the show, but I was so compelled by the acting and by the direction and by the storytelling. The only thing that doesn't really get me, there's one of the side stories that I feel doesn't really do anything for me.
I would ask everyone watching, please give a thumbs up. There's 54 people watching now and only like 16 thumbs up. Give Matt some support. Come on. Get those thumbs up going.
No, I appreciate that, but it is, if you guys want, it's all good. McLeod here says, I'm also finishing up Squid Game, finishing up episode 6. It destroyed me. Yeah. Episode 6 was a tough one. Episode 6 was definitely a tough one. It's my favorite episode of the season, and it is definitely the oh damn. And I can't wait for what's going to happen with season 2. I wouldn't mind doing some like speculation videos or whatever, but I also feel like that's been done to death. Like that's kind of like a big part of it is like a lot of that stuff is kind of done to death. So what do you talk about that like no one else is really talking about? It's such a weird game. I was actually there's a guy tonight I was watching. He has like over 2.5 million subs, and he's basically like, I'm done. I'm just done because I can't. He's like, I can't deal with the negativity anymore. Right. And like, that's a big fucking factor for a lot of these people who have massive eyeballs on them. I don't think the average person is used to that kind of attention, and it's like, we see this with like child celebrities, how they get burned out, because it's like, there's constant attention and they're not used to that world. They're not as protected. Because if you are one of the AAA Hollywood celebrities or a musician or whatever, someone who's very, very, very high up there as being a celebrity, you will get protection, right? You have like your publicist, your manager, your agent, you've got your assistant, you've got people around you that will prop you up. Yeah, sure. Cause they take a cut, but they'll prop you up, they'll protect you, and they'll insulate you where necessary. The average person, this is why when we talk about cancel culture, I call it social fascism or social authoritarianism. Pick your poison on that terminology. But really, it's like a person who is a celebrity who is canceled can rally their fan base to kind of be okay. A normal person who is canceled does not have that. If you're a YouTuber without a strong fan base and something happens, you're left in the weeds because everyone else distances themselves and doesn't want to work with you. And because they're told not to work with you, they're told to treat you as being something else, at least for an undetermined set amount of time until everyone is kind of forgotten and moved the hell on.
It's like the most extreme high school ever. Like,
yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, as much as another thing about this,
you can't go to another school.
Yeah, well, think of it like this too. It's like, as much as I hate Mecha Random 42, she was absolutely excised from her group that she was defending. She was excised while she was vehemently defending them, right? And that was the thing, is they booted her out because she said something that made her persona non grata. Never mind, she was running defense. She was towing the line. Like, that is what I'm talking about. It is so chaotically crazy with these people that it just becomes this whole notion of like, for me, it becomes a what the fuck is a goddamn point.
Mhm.
And that ends up, and I know what you're trying to say with like keep going, but there are days where I'm just like, fuck, man. Like, I just want to go and like curl up in bed and watch something that's like comfy. Like, let me just watch reruns of Unsolved Mysteries. I'll feel better.
Well, I'm only really, I'm honestly mean it when you drag me back into it, and I'm having more fun than I ever had. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear your thoughts on it, but I think you'll come around though.
Well, because here's the
Uh,
thing. Here's the thing is, I want to fight these fucking people, dude. I do.
well,
I want
just
to fight
don't,
them. I want
just
to
do
fight
it
them
in
all the
different
time,
ways.
though. That's the thing. That's the thing is, I get real into it. That's my biggest problem, is I have to hold myself back.
Yeah,
And when I hold
well, take
myself
it down
back,
a notch a little bit, but still do it. I think those
see, I can't
videos.
take myself down a notch. That's the problem, is I can't take myself down a notch. I can only increase it because that's how frustrated they make me. Right?
Well,
That's the whole
I
issue.
think I think that there is an audience that really wants to hear your take on what they're doing with the Baldwin situation. That would be really good for people to hear because it is bullshit. It's completely
Oh no, it
disgusting.
it is
Yeah.
it is. It's all those things. Again, the biggest problem though is that for me personally, it's like if they're not in my purview, I don't
Mhm.
think about them, right?
That's my fault.
If they're not, yeah, yeah, God, I subscribe to you. There have been times I have unsubbed from you. I'm like, I can't do it right now, Max. I can't do it right now. I just can't be around this shit. So I have to unsub so I don't see it. But if I don't see it, it's not my purview. I'm not thinking about it. That's how my brain works. I don't sit there in the back of my mind. I'm like, I wonder what Doomcock is up to this week. And none of that matters to me. Like, I don't think about any of that shit. But if somebody sends me something and it piques my interest, then I go down that rabbit hole. And that becomes the biggest problem. Is for me, it's very easy to get lost down that rabbit hole because we were talking about this. Well, Enosh and Johnny were talking about this on 2 Cents earlier about online harassment and bullying and what it does to people. And what I said to that was, it doesn't, they said, oh, the way Ryan Kindle was operating is he was trying to say that this makes you stronger, right? The bullying makes you stronger. And I'm like, no, the fuck it doesn't. It makes you angrier. And then that makes you apathetic towards other people suffering. That's what happens, because it's like scar tissue upon scar tissue upon scar tissue. Except the thing is, you don't see the scars because it's all emotional, But what it does is it makes you numb and it makes you desensitized. And it also then, when you get triggered, you get angrier than normal because you have a lot of unresolved issues with it, with your own stress, with your own situation. That ends up making it so you don't see other people's plight as easily. And the thing is, when these and only a bully would push for more bullying, by the way. But
Mhm.
that's kind of the whole point. Is like going after these guys wouldn't be cathartic for me unless I was in their face calling them terrible. It's not cathartic. It's frustration because I know deep down how shitty they are. They know deep down how shitty they are. They don't want to have a conversation with me about how shitty they are or facts in general. And they just operate with absolute immunity from their dim-witted audience that is stuck in that damn ass echo chamber. So so for me, it's like, there's no value system in always calling it out because it's like, I don't want to be there all the time. And that's just, that is me. That is where I'm at with it.
Mhm.
But again, that stuff frustrates me. This especially with this woman who died.
Yeah.
Especially with the woman who died.
Yeah, I was that really hit me hard too. I was like, wow, it's so sad. And then
Yeah.
to attack people just because they're on Team Hollywood, really not cool. Um, it's so not a good thing to do right now. You know,
No, it's that's the thing though. That's what frustrates me. Is because that, because it's, like, I haven't worked on a film set in a number of years, but I know people who do, who still actively do. And I do take that shit more personally. And so it's like, but to sit there and to take her death and then the grave stand, that's what gets me. I mean, you heard me go off the other night.
Yeah.
So, and even that, I didn't feel better after that. I was more angry after that. So anyway, I don't want, look, we've been dwelling on this for goddamn nearly a half hour.
Oh, it's my fault again. Is it
no,
my
it's
fault?
not your, it's not your fault. It's not your fault, Max. It's not your fault. But I do want to get this one here.
I'm actually curious too about this Ruby Rose Strikes Back.
Yeah. We'll talk about that real quick. And everything here. But Jess here, $10. Thank you, buddy. Says, I think as we get older, our priorities or lifestyle changes in regards to these times. We are constantly bombarded with so much stimulant. It's hard to enjoy as well as drama, by people in media. Well, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, where we are now with media is that everything has to be sensationalistic. Everything has to be bombastic or full of hyperbole. It's the only way to get people to like really tune in, and that ends up being a bigger, and I get it. We all kind of play that game. I think you can be sensationalistic, or I think you can be sexy without being sensationalistic, but that's a very fine line to walk. The problem is people out there who run that ball so far into the end zone that it just becomes like laughable, but they do it in such a way to where people actually think that's what they're trying to say. It just becomes a wild mess. Like, look at the Quartering, for example, the way he puts his thumbnails and his titles and his social media posts about his content. It's all doom and gloom. It's all terrible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, anyway, on the concept of this, Baldwin needs to be held accountable. For what? He was the one handed the prop gun, the gun, and told that it was cold, meaning that there wasn't anything in there. He was from what I've been reading, and again, information's been kind of ebbing and flowing on this one. So
the only thing I would think that he could potentially be held accountable was because he's also producer of the movie, if they cut corners with the team that was in charge of safety, then I would say, yeah. But
anyone who was involved in that,
that's the only way. Like, if they're saying, you know what, too bad, too sad, too bad with the people walking off, let's get a cheap crew in here, and then that's what the result is, then I would say there's an invest, then he should be held accountable if they cut corners for safety.
No, and I absolutely agree on that one as well. If there are, if he was a part of that, then absolutely, that is where the accountability comes in. In the meantime, when it comes to the actual pulling of the trigger, he was under the impression that it was not a real gun.
Right.
I still don't know why she was walking in front of it, or why she wasn't in front of it when he pulled the trigger. We're going to have to wait for the full investigation to come on out. I support the full investigation. And again, I do feel bad for everyone involved.
But if he had some sway, or because he was also producer and they cut corners in any way, then that should be, then I agree then. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We've spent enough time in our little kumbaya hug box. My bad. But no, let's talk about this Ruby Rose thing. So this is coming in today from bleedingcool.com, where Ruby Rose is now doubling down on the claims, and she's been posting email messages between herself and
she has been talking to Ray Fisher.
Probably pulling from the Ray Fisher game, yeah, or she just doesn't care.
Oh.
So she's talking about, she's releasing stuff here after Cameron Johnson and a reported production assistant push back on her claims. So she's coming out trying to say,
spilled.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Hold on here. How would we go about this?
Well, what do you know?
I need that clip, man.
I don't know if I still have it, but if I have it, I'll send it off to you.
Well.
What do you know? So in the first set of screen caps here, this is an exchange between Ruby Rose and her talent manager, Carol Bodie, that shows us Rose's frustrations with the working environment. This is from February 2020, and offers reason as to why she was feeling that way. So she says here, and this is from the 26th of February, 2020. I'm so close to being done with this show between the atmosphere, the BS, the investigation / surgery. I'm really about to walk. So the investigation / surgery has to do with her back injury, I believe.
Mhm.
And as a result of that, she is, there was something about an investigation, and I'm sure there was if it's an injury on set. So, and I have a feeling that this is the BS, the investigation. I have a feeling those are more or less kind of together. Now she says here, I won't take crumbs, do better, use the situation as a way to change the industry and the world, but keep up the smear campaign because it only fires me up to continue when that's the last thing I wanted. Well, she put this out there. So let's be fair. Yeah. She wanted this kind of attention. And then she also says another message to Carol on the same day. I don't know what Carol said here, so we have no idea.
Well, this could be why she was not, the crew didn't, like, she was probably really, if this is accurate, and they were messing with, she probably wasn't very friendly to be around on set if she was upset the whole time. Honestly, too. I'm not saying that excuses being an asshole to underlings or anything, but,
No, she probably. Now she says here, I meant to walk today until I can get my breath and have a talk with SAG and or Greg. So that would be Greg Berlanti. And just everyone except maybe Carolyn to work this whole thing out. Carolyn being Carolyn Dries, the showrunner of Batwoman. So I don't know about walking from the show for good. Maybe I want to, but I fear huge consequences. That's her message. Then she kind of comments on it by saying, this isn't even in the report. Just reminding you I'm still here and you have an opportunity to change things. I don't know who she's talking to in this particular case. Then we have Greg Berlanti writing to her 2 months prior on December 19th, 2019. Says, thank you. You're a gorgeous orchid.
What the heck?
I don't know. You are so thoughtful, but the real gift is your amazing performance and hard work. Very thankful for your talent and kindness. Have an amazing time off and congrats on such a wonderful success this year. I think this was after the first half of the season.
Okay.
Because the show was already on the air at this point.
Wow.
You're gorgeous orchid. I think your gorgeous orchid is what he's calling her. So that's what he's referring. I don't know. Maybe that's his pet name for her, I guess. So she says here, I actually like her. Again, going back with that cursive. Of course, today she woke up and chose violence on my reading. Saying here, I actually like Greg. I still want to believe he has a human side. So this is hard, but again, not in the report because the report is way, way too intense to have to release. But my work ethic was never questioned until I was injured and walked and stayed and was fired. LOL. Okay. So again, this all has to do with her injury on set, according to her. So then she turns her attention to the showrunner, Carolyn Dries. And she writes here, off to bed, but deciding between releasing Carolyn's email about not being an LGBT activist or feminist, but saying she could be one for others through the show, i.e. monetizing gays is how she found the desire to make people feel included, or did the email exchanges when I did leave, and the truths in that from all three of them, let me give them time to act privately, which is all I wanted, mediation, not litigation, appropriately, which should be fast considering when I went to hire a litigation lawyer, Greg had hired them all.
What?
So, I mean, hold on. Music Man here says, why does Greg come off as like a fake ass bitch? Dude, that's a standard LA babble back and forth, like I love you, darling. You're amazing, darling. Yeah. It's that kind of stuff. Well, yeah, I don't know if it's a pet name. I was, called her an orchid. I've never heard the term orchid be used in an affectionate way before.
But using that as proof, saying that she was all good with him either is absolutely no proof, because exactly what you said, that's how just people talk. Like they really
Now, well, what gets me is this one though.
Job.
Yeah, what really gets me though is this right here, i.e. monetizing gays is how she found the desire to make people feel included. Or also here it says how she apparently is not an LGBT activist or feminist, but saying she could be one for others through the show. Now, When Batwoman was announced back in, I think, 2018, when they were, they wanted the actress to play who's playing Kate Kane to be lesbian. They wanted that inclusion because the character is gay. They wanted a gay actress to play her because, Greg Berlanti is gay. And so he's very, that show Love Victor on Hulu.
Mm-mm.
Oh, well, that's him. That's his production, I think. He did the movie. He wrote and directed the movie, and this is a TV show that came off of that. So he's out and proud, great. And so they really wanted to play this angle up. And what I'm wondering is if what, Carolyn is, what she's effectively accusing Carolyn of here is lying about being an ally and using it as a way to get ahead or using it as a way to push an agenda. But the way that the show was pitched, the way that the show was pushed out there, it was always going to have that agenda, right? So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what she says if she leaks those emails. This is definitely a threat. This is absolutely a level of extortion. Like, let's handle this privately through mediation, or I'm gonna release these emails of you saying some naughty things. Because remember what took down Amy Pascal?
Yeah.
It wasn't the hack that did it. I mean, well, the hack is the catalyst. But what they found were emails between her and the other co-president of Sony Studios making cracks about like collard greens and stuff. I think I forget exactly what the context was, but it was something kind of pseudo-racist, and that's what prompted her to leave, by the way. So that's what got her out the door. It wasn't so much the hack. It was that whole notion of, yeah, right. So, well, Cam here is saying, so I guess Ruby is saying Carolyn doesn't care about other gays. Probably. And that's the whole point. That's the whole thing though. Look, having the character is gay, have a gay actor player. That's fantastic. Or don't, that's fine too. You know what I mean? The character is the one that's being represented. So that the character is what's being represented on screen. But it should also be who is the best person to play that role. And we've seen this play time and time and time again, especially following the example of when Jenny Slate left Big Mouth because she was playing a biracial character and she herself is not biracial. And that led to Kristen Bell, who was playing a biracial character on the show Central Park for Apple TV, exiting the show because Kristen Bell is not biracial. It created this whole conversation about like, hold on, these are just actors portraying roles. Especially in the case of the animation side of things, these are just voice actors portraying roles. And then Bob's Burgers, the creator of that, Lohan Burchard, was also like, well, we have a trans character in our show named Marshmallow, who is voiced by a man who is not trans. So we are no longer going to have that actor voice that character. But never mind the fact that on Bob's Burgers, Linda, Tina, and a litany of other female characters, Mrs. Levon, the lady who owns the paint store, almost every other female character outside of Tammy, also voiced by Jenny Slate, is voiced by a man. Right? Like a male identifying, man. And that is the whole point. It's like this is when you start getting into this whole concept of representation, and oftentimes it's just a buzzword that people don't necessarily care about. And so again, it's all done for the press. It's all performative. So my take on it is this: when she's talking about outing Carolyn, it's that Carolyn was more or less probably saying, this is all performative. This is what they want. This is what we have to do because this is the idea that they want to present. I'm telling you guys, like, no one in Hollywood really gives much of a shit about inclusivity and representation unless a shitstorm comes to their doorstep. Think about that. How many times do they not say anything until someone points it out on social media and that riles a mob up, and that mob comes back over and they go, whoa, okay, hold on, guys. We're going to do better. They only do it to get away with it. When no one's looking, they're going to go back to the old practices. I mean, that's the thing. And again, I'm not like saying don't have representation absolutely, but start there. Right? If it fits, people are upset that Jet in the Cowboy Bebop show is not a white dude because he was in the animated show, but the actor they got playing him, it does pretty well. Spike is also pretty, looks pretty white to me in the cartoon. John Cho is playing him in the live action show. I don't care. It looks like fun. I want to see it.
Right.
I'm not going to lose my shit over it.
Yeah. I think we all need to get better. Like, let people do it. See how it goes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting a little sleepy.
No. It's all good. This is a whole thing. It's a whole thing. All right. We'll go through this here. Okay. So, Ruby then responds to Carolyn. I'm assuming this is Carolyn Dries. Says also last night on set was absolutely catastrophic. I don't know if it was Dermot or what or who or how, but people were yelling at each other and walking off set. And it was so stressful. Eddie was like a piece of Scotch tape on the side of a Titanic. This might sound like a strange ask, but is there a way to have a no yelling at crew or production? Or anyone rule on set? Just a no yelling rule. That's Joe Roth rule on his films, just to keep the love and patience up, the morale up. Now that's actually something I absolutely agree with.
Asking, and then they were criticizing her on this in that hit piece. I think that's a good thing to ask for.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, film, dude. Trust me, films will get stressful. You cram a bunch of people together for 18 hours a day for months at a time.
I mean, for this part specifically, because they did mention that in the article, then WB or somewhere they were mentioning that she's asking for weird stuff on.
Well, there was that production assistant who called her a dictator. Yeah, and then cameras.
That doesn't sound like a dictator. Doesn't sound like a dictator.
No. I mean, I think this is one of those times where I agree with this one, and I don't know if she's flexing her star power. She says here though, she's like, I felt like I had to be the comedic relief for cast and crew and camera and the whole room, which is fine, but I am too tired, and it just makes all of our jobs a little harder. So, I mean, stressful days on set happen. Mm-hmm. She's clearly complaining about this. But again, I would love to hear reports from other people who were there. So to give us an idea. So this one, I mean, people think that she's kind of a dictator. This is kind of showing her as maybe not so much. Mm-hmm. She says, also as a showrunner who I went to about no yelling memo, then offload it to a director who wasn't even directing that episode. Also a PA got a concussion that day and an extra got hit in the head with a crane. Ooh, that's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then Carolyn responds back by saying, Jerry told me about that. I'm relieved to hear that you found a way to keep some relief. I'm assuming it's comedic relief. Yeah. Because usually it's the number one doing the yelling. I'm thinking that's the first director, right? Or the second director or first AD, maybe first AD. Yelling at crew is unnecessary times 100. I've never had to raise my voice at work once in my career. People need coping skills. And then, okay, so then in a move to directly counter Johnson's claims, this is what Cameras was saying. Rose shared a screenshot of a conversation where Rose explains to Johnson how it would be impossible to put on the costume for cover shoots so soon after next surgery. But later on, she revealed she did the cover shoot anyway, implying she didn't feel she had a choice. All right. So, I mean, but I can't see, it's all blacked out. Like Rachel Batwoman. I mean, or I don't know who she's talking to on this one. I don't know. So, okay. Also, I knew about Elise. I kept trying to get her to help and she wouldn't. It was bad. Carolyn sent me an email and I haven't responded yet because I feel like I really need to say my piece. Okay. So talking about her neck surgery here. I mean, no, she definitely needed more time to recover, by the way. Like, I don't think anyone's even questioning that. But I don't know who the hell she's talking to necessarily. Like, okay, they wanted me to shoot 2 covers this week, but there is just not a chance in hell I could get into that suit and not absolutely crash. So hopefully it will all work out. Okay, Rachel is the actress who plays her sister. Okay, thank you. It's like kind of all over the place here, but I guess I get it. All right. So, okay. So she says here, P.S. I still shot those 2 covers. How silly to think I had an option. More on that tomorrow. Didn't do it for me. I didn't need them. I'd already shot the previous Entertainment Weekly cover, but 6 days after surgery was when they wanted me to shoot. Off to those emails are heartbreaking, but say a lot. And then this is Carol Bodie again. It's just a bunch of more emails here. Talking to SAG. Okay, she says, wait until the busiest time of the season, crossovers, to investigate my injury, only to threaten me the whole time. I spent a week getting zero sleep, collecting all x-rays, emails, professional opinions, only for my team later to be told they have decided to end the investigation before the PI finalizes the report and will not share the outcome. So, I mean, the thing is, though, it's like, look, SAG would be involved. She's Carol here saying, go to SAG. Like, SAG should have been involved anyway. All right, so she says then my surgery was the 18th of June. Okay, this is from June 17th, the day before the surgery. All right, attached to the Entertainment Weekly Comic-Con concepts. See attached for inspiration, rough sketches. They wanted me to shoot 2 covers starting the 24th, 5 days after my surgery, and 1,000 emails a day, every day after my surgery to do with work. There was not one day of downtime. I declined. Then they told me that the whole Arrowverse would be affected because just like the year before, without me, they could lose the whole cover for the show and cast. But do they really need Entertainment Weekly? You know, like, does that really add that much? I swear there's a very weird, like, thing with movie and TV marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like they think people fucking read Entertainment Weekly. You know what we do when they put out a cover? We use it for our goddamn thumbnails.
CW might.
The 1.4 million people that watch an episode of Arrow? I mean, that's not much, dude.
Yeah.
Like here's the thing, Supergirl's numbers on CBS were like the lowest of their whole network. And that was still like 3 times higher than everything on CW. To give you an idea of just how few people, I mean, I don't know, maybe streaming numbers are better. I don't know what the streaming numbers are. So I don't know. So, okay. Danica Smith, who I think writes for EW, emailed Ruby here, says, so they will not be able to get it together and shoot the crossover by the Sunday. Good news. They will give us a cover for the Batwoman launch. Don't mention to other cast. They were not told, as the cover was based around you. You get your whole Sunday back and cover for your series. Okay. So, I mean, she got what she wanted in the end, I guess. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot here. There's a lot here. So I think we, unless there's anything like really, I'll look at the summary. Jesus Christ. Yeah, we're not going to go through all this shit.
Holy crap.
There's a lot there. So I would say based off of that, she's got legitimate grievances about the injury on set and how it was managed. And I think a fair amount of it might be just in side aspect. It might be the whole idea that she, you have a show, right? Tons of moving pieces and parts. Shutting it down will not benefit, especially if they're going into crossover season, because they have to coordinate all of that for crossover. So this is where it's like having all of those shows running simultaneously and having all those productions running simultaneously. If your star is held up for a number of weeks, that's not going to be good. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, but her behavior on set before all of that is what has been called into question by a lot of people. So, I mean, The Last Stand, you have a point. Surgery on the 18th and wanting her to do shoots on the 24th is an ask. It was just a cover shoot. So it was just her putting on the costume and standing there. But still, that's a hell of a surgery, and giving her the time to go and do that. And they ultimately worked it out to where she got her own cover for Entertainment Weekly down the road. So, I mean, it is very much all over, this whole situation is just, it's kind of crazy. I do think she's looking for a way to cover her own ass here. Cause I think she got in over her head with the job. If I'm being honest with you, I think she got in over her head with the job, and it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know. So
Uh, I mean, there seems to be something there. So they really tried to spin it in that people coming out in the production speaking out against her. They have something to gain as well. The go Team Warner Brothers or Team,
No, yeah,
uh,
no, yeah. I
because
mean,
the one thing I got from there is saying she was a dictator. That one person that said she was a dictator, and then she's like, I'd like a no yelling role that actually seemed like she was trying to go to bat for the crew. So that's what's
well,
conflicting there.
her being a dictator though, and her doing that, I get what you're saying, but it's like what they were talking about was like them setting up stuff specifically for her.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So there being a no yelling rule would also apply to don't yell at Ruby.
Okay.
Right. Or it could be like, when people yell, it gets stressful in any environment. And that could throw people off when they're trying to work. I agree that a no yelling policy is best. If you have an issue, take the person to the side and discuss with them.
Look, I saw someone in the chat too, and a lot of social media people like quit being snowflakes. People need to be treated with somewhat respect at every workplace. I'm sorry, just degrading people in front of all your colleagues. That's not saying don't be a snowflake. That's like general decency and a part where we need to progress somewhat, don't you think? You don't need to be degraded in front of all your coworkers.
Yeah. No, I agree.
There's a room for being corrected. Yeah, everyone makes mistakes, but in front of everyone, where it treats you like garbage in front. A lot of these sets, when you can be corrected, it's in front of everyone, and there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. I don't think saying someone where they like, we need a safe environment and not be yelled at in front of everyone is being a snowflake. I think that's general decency, honestly.
Yeah. No. You're absolutely right.
But the main opinions online are like, people are so soft today; they can't take anything. That's not no. You should.
No, I mean, there's reputation.
Coworkers.
Yeah, there's reputation, and then there's like, when you get yelled at, that makes you doubt yourself, which can actually lead to not doing your job properly, because then it makes you overcorrect.
Yeah.
Right. You know how it is, like when you get yelled at by your boss, or you get criticized by your boss, you kind of go into that like, oh shit, I have to do everything perfect, because you feel that they're looking at you and that they're judging you harshly or more harshly than they were before. So you don't feel comfortable and you don't feel like you're in your element. That happens to a lot of us when we deal with our supervisors, especially like, when I was working at the drive-in, my old boss, the owner, thought everybody was the thief. And we are cash-based business. So trust me when I say there were a few. And but he would come over like down the road and shit, and he would like watch me handle money. And I'm like, dude, I do this 5 nights a week. What the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I got 2 lines out to the street. I got to get in 200 cars, and I've got 10 minutes. I don't need you here looking over my shoulder, which is going to throw me off my game, because I got to get people in. And so like, that's what I'm talking. So, I mean, there's things like that where it's like, if you got a problem, you can address it to me once we're done. If, or put a camera in this thing and fuck off, which is what they ended up doing.
Well, I hate to head out, but it's 2 a.m. for me, and I'll be enjoying listening to your show.
Yeah. A couple quick things to get through here. And then I'll probably wrap it up, because I'm back to school tomorrow. So,
all right.
So it's all good. But all right, Max, thanks for coming in, buddy. I really appreciate it.
All right. Yeah. Support this show, support this man. We need Hollywood After Dark, especially got that new logo. That's really like a certain hub. Support.
I like, I got to get some merch with that, shit on there, especially before Christmas. But all right, Max, thank you very much, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Bye, everyone.
All right. See you, buddy. Thank you. All right. Mad Max the Mandalorian, everybody. Thank you very much. Music Man here. I hate it when my bosses do that shit over. Yeah, I hate it too, man. I hate it too. Let's see here. McLeod here says, I also saw Dune the other night. There's a lot of serious allegories relating to both colonialism in the Middle East and the war on terror. Well, I mean, yeah, it's not hard to find any kind of allegory on that front, especially, most science fiction is based off of some conflict in the past anyway. So there's that one. Let's see here. Cassier says, I don't understand this. The military, that's what we do to be better. Full Metal Jacket, anyone? I mean, hold on. Are you talking about Full Metal Jacket? Like when they beat the shit at they sock partied or blanket partied Gomer Pyle, and they treated him like shit till he grabbed a fucking gun and he took out Gunny. I mean, like, okay, maybe not the best, example there, Cass, but I get you. Let's see here. H Bart says, not sure if you got this earlier, but Sunset. Oh, right, man. Yeah, I did. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, buddy. I did catch it. You know, because of that right now, we're going to talk about the greatest sunset movie of all time. The greatest sunset film that's ever been established is getting mixed reactions from a lot of people, and it's really interesting. That's right, folks. The Eternals, because right now it's sitting at only 71% based off 41 reviews. And I know what you're thinking, Matt. Come on, 71%. Like, the fuck you thinking, bro? Well, here's the thing with that. Most of the time, Marvel movies do really well. Most of the time, Marvel movies do exceptionally well. And so a lot of people out there are very much going to like look at this and go, something, man, something, you know what I mean? Like something here is not right. So this is what the critics are generally saying. Just looking at the top here, you know, I mean, Perry Nemiroff from Collider, although here she's listed as being a YouTube top. Oh my God. She works for fucking Collider, dude. Let's just be fair. Anyway, I'm not trying to disparage Perry. I'm just not a huge fan. It says the weight of complicated exposition weakens the energy of Eternals a little too often. It's at its best when the focus is on the Eternals recreating their family, the humor of it, and the passion when they fight for each other and the things that they love, giving it a 2.5 out of 5. And she really like only really negative the thing here. The weight of complicated exposition weakens the energy. That was it. That was her negative criticism there. Okay. Nicholas Barber here from BBC.com. That is the British Broadcasting Company, that big black cock, says Eternals may not be the worst Marvel of Marvel movies, but it's undoubtedly the most disappointing. And of course, this is most likely because Chloe Zhao won Best Director and Best Picture at the Oscars last year. And everyone was really excited for those in-camera fucking sunsets that Kevin Feige was touting around. So let's see some more here. Robbie Collin, Daily Telegraph, says it's constantly engaged in a kind of grit tooth authenticity theater. Authenticity theater. There we go. Going out of its way to show you it's doing all the things proper cinema does, even though none of them bring any discernible benefit whatsoever to the film at hand, giving it a 2 out of 5. And that does seem about right. Again, this movie is 2.5 hours long, predominantly exposition. And it's definitely establishing the future of where things are going to go with this side of the MCU. But again, it's going to be one that I think a lot of people might get bored with. I think this is kind of what I'm reading from this, is that the goddamn movie is boring. Justin Chang here from LA Times here says that you walk out in the depressing realization that you've just seen one of the more interesting movies Marvel will ever make, and hopefully the least interesting one Chloe Zhao will ever make. Now, reports are coming out today on that as well that are saying that Chloe Zhao was actually arguing with Kevin Feige in the edit bay for this movie, that they were going back and forth. Very similar to what we heard with Joss Whedon and Kevin Feige over Avengers Age of Ultron, and obviously Alan Taylor and Kevin Feige on Thor The Dark World. So, I mean, not everything's going to knock it out of the park. Obviously, you're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs. But I don't think Chloe Zhao is that interesting of a filmmaker. I'm sorry. Like, you know, Nomadland just came across like, yo, I've seen this shit on YouTube, but it's far more entertaining. Now, Oliver Jones from Observer does give it a fresh review, saying that this is a film that asks on a grand scale the questions we grapple with every day. How do we navigate and understand difference? Do we value humanity so much when humans often do not seem to value each other? Okay, giving it a 3.5 out of 4. Charlotte O'Sullivan here, London Evening Standard, says, with characters and concepts this strong, Chloe Zhao's quite right to take her time. Well, they also, I mean, look, this is an ensemble. There are like 9 Eternals. Everyone's going to have to get their bits. Now, Nestor Benetacor from Nestor Cine Hollywood. I'm sorry, I don't know that word. Cine Decide? I don't, if it's Spanish, I'm terrible. I apologize. Says a disappointment of cosmic proportions. Eternals never takes off due to a pedestrian script that wastes a galaxy of talent. Full review in Spanish. There we go. Rodrigo Perez, the playlist negative review, says a convoluted cosmic misfire and one of Marvel's dullest efforts to date. Hold on a second. With a D+ rating. Wow. But James Mottram, South China Morning Post here says, like I said, the cough is still there a little bit. The fight-driven action is fun. Jolie really has a ball, but it all feels gears towards setting up further adventures. Now, isn't that kind of funny? Because isn't that something that a lot of people have been kind of complaining about with Marvel in this particular phase? Is everything feels like it's just setting something up down the road? That, of course, can be a problem. And then Jimmy O from Joe Blow's Movie Network here says, Eternals is a decent flick, but it rarely manages to rise above what we've already seen in the MCU with the visual style here. Although I think there might be some more quote to that. And then Jamie Jirac here from comic.com says, Eternals will likely be one of the more divisive films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. No matter how you feel about Eternals, there's no denying Phase 4 is off to an exciting start. Okay. And then Josephine L. from Geeks of Colors says, Eternal is beautiful in its visuals and its storytelling. Well, that is a compelling quote. But I'm kind of curious here. What exactly are all the rotten reviews saying? What haven't we seen? Okay. Dulcie Pierce, the son, says, boy, does this patchy, paceless film go on for an eternity. Ooh. You've got good old Scott Mendelson from Forbes. Eternals shows Marvel's making the same mistakes, generic superhero characters, dull effects-driven action, making the entire film a prologue for the sequel as its rivals. I mean, and that is something that DC has problems with, but Marvel here clearly is doing it here. Kristen Acuna from Insider says, one of Marvel's most ambitious movies in the years is also one of its weakest since Thor: The Dark World. Oof. Steve Rose, the Guardian here says, it's not exactly boring. There's always something new to behold, but nor is it particularly exciting, and it lacks the breezy wit of Marvel's best movies. And I think that's because we're used. Look, I'll be honest. I'm a huge Marvel fan. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that what we're looking at is we're used to these very, funnily written characters that have wit and humor and sarcasm. And here it's a family story that's not Marvel's first family that everybody wants. That's going to be coming, but it's one that you have 9 people. And, it's like, I don't know, maybe I'll feel different when I see it, but it hasn't really been blowing my skirt up. I haven't really found the Eternals to be that interesting. Joshua Rivera here from Polygon says Eternals is a mess. His review was a lot more harsh. And then David Ehrlich from IndieWire says, can't these movies do anything else? Is it too much to ask the dominant kind of cinema on the planet to shake things up and challenge itself in a more significant way? And that is a very fair commentary right there. That is a very fair commentary. Look, as much as I'm a big Marvel fan, I feel that it's shaking things up on very much the Disney Plus side of things. Shang-Chi shook things up, I think, a bit with the direction of where some things were going, but at the same time, it still followed a very homogenous plan, and it was setting up things for the future. The way I view things going now is Marvel is going to be setting up a lot of these movies for bigger event films, which is why I think in the next couple of years, we're probably going to start seeing a slowdown on origin films, and those characters are going to be in their own series on Disney Plus. And we already know this in the case of Ms. Marvel and Moon Knight and She-Hulk. They're all starting off there, and then they're going to be moving their way into the bigger cinematic fare with the MCU. So it's something there to see here. H Bart's here. It says $5. Thank you, buddy. It says, how are they going to explain Sprite aging since her actress won't always be a kid? De-aging technology is a thing, buddy. It is a very, very, very big thing. And so, there's that. Now, Rational here says the truth is, if you don't know a lot about Marvel Comics lore, you're really not going to like Eternals. I know some may argue that critics should do their due diligence and read up on the lore. Well, at the same time, it is one of those things where you never fully know, until you see it. Even lore does get changed. RJ here says, I think Marvel is critic proof at this point. If anything, the more mixed reviews make me more intrigued because it's a topic of conversation. And that's actually probably one of the more interesting things. I'll say this, Brandon Davis from comicbook.com. I like Brandon well enough. I do think he is very, very much a shill on a number of levels, but I don't fault him for it because that's his personality and people out there like him for it. He posted today that Eternals is a 6 out of 10 for him. And that is, and he was like, I was surprised at that. I think given how much of a Marvel fanboy he is, a 6 out of 10 really means like a 3.5 or 4 out of 10. And he added on a couple extra points strictly because he's a fanboy. And I think a lot of us do the same thing. I think a lot of us, do that as well. Now, I did see the comment before about Joker, right? Yeah, Brandon is a shill, but he's a good kind of shill. Hey man, I ain't knocking it. I ain't knocking it. All right. I think he does a lot of good work, but he's totally a shill. The thing is, I saw the comment earlier about Joker and how that was, it was lambasted on Rotten Tomatoes and won Best Actor and did $1 billion. That movie had a political agenda that was aimed against Joker. When that thing dropped 2 years ago, there was absolutely a political agenda aimed at trying to kneecap that movie that was started by Peter Sciretta from Slash Film, who was out there trying to argue that the movie was going to make somebody a shooter, which it never happened. We know that now. We know all the hoopla, all the hubbubaloo surrounding that. None of it mattered. None of it happened the way that they said it did, or that they predicted it would happen. And the movie, because of that, went on to go and gross a shitload of money. And it was a good movie, and it was worthy of the accolades. So I don't think that's going to happen here unless someone's all like, Angelina Jolie pantomiming all of those energy weapons is going to get some kid out there to discover how to make their own energy weapons and then take out a school. I just don't see that happening. We'll have to wait and see. I know we're not going to get an R-rated Blade, unfortunately, H-Bar. It's going to end up being PG-13. God, son of a bitch. Anyway, let's keep this party a rolling tonight. Dune ended up pulling in an astonishing $40 million at the box office, which blew my mind away. I had been saying, I'll fully admit I was wrong here, that I didn't think this movie was going to clear 25 million. I didn't think this movie was made to make money at the box office, considering the fact that like other Denny V, I can never pronounce it, Denny movies never really do that well. Blade Runner 2049 being the last prime example of this. And Dune, a movie that is playing day and date on HBO Max, a movie that is very much doing well on HBO Max, still pulled in $40 million. And it goes to show you that, yeah, the movie theater, the movie going experience is not over. In fact, it even had extremely high IMAX returns. I think 9% of the 40 million was money that was spent in IMAX. And then there's some other percentage that was tied into large format theaters, large format presentations of this, because everybody was looking at that giant sandworm butthole and going like, I need to see this on the largest screen possible, and I think that's what a lot of people were really into. And I've heard good things about the movie. I'll try to start watching it tonight when I wrap up the stream here, probably in the next like 15 minutes, and go give it a watch and see how it is. But ultimately, the way I look at this is this is good. So of course, Variety is asking the questions, is it enough for a sequel? Yes, absolutely. It could have done 27 million and it would get a sequel. It could have done 25 million and it would get a sequel. It did well enough for them to know that they need to invest into this. I've been talking about this all weekend, and like I've seen a lot of very interesting conversations, a lot of interesting commentary coming out about this, where like people have really been trying to compare it to a Marvel movie. Like, oh, it's a science fiction movie, but it's not like Marvel. And I'm like, yeah, you amoeba. What are you talking about? Like Dune, hard sci-fi, Marvel Cinematic Universe, popcorn comic book films. Not comparable. The fuck is wrong with you? The fuck are you smoking? And can I get some? I've been seeing these conversations pop up all over social media. I don't get it. But again, when people are going to compare it to the dominant entertainment seen on the horizon or on the landscape, and that of course is going to be the Marvel movie. So I get that, but a lot of other people have been comparing this to Star Wars. In fact, Star Wars like, inspired by Dune. So obviously people out there have been wanting to watch this adaptation for quite some time, but I have seen some people come out and say that the David Lynch version was better and that this one is just too long and is too boring and is too slow. And I'm like, dude, it's Dune. The fuck did you think it was going to be? It was absolutely going to be long and drawn out and slow. And Dune, like, that is what Dune is. It's not a bad thing. That is the story Frank Herbert was telling. Cool. And a lot of people are probably going to go see it again next weekend, because I think the large format presentation is going to get a lot of word of mouth. And from there, I think it's going to do pretty good. Is the movie going to get a sequel? Dude, 100% it's going to get a sequel. Valeria here says, I hate bloodless sword fighting. It's PG-13. It's PG-13. And yeah, there should have been blood, but at the same time, I get it. So that's really all, I don't know. I want to watch it. I do want to watch it. So, let's see here. H Bars at $5 says, I'm not a Snyder cult guy, but Ann Sarnoff kind of hypocrite how she said Dune is getting a sequel because of the cliffhanger, yet Zack's film does not. Okay. Well, okay. So we have to kind of, like, I know it's apples and oranges, but or oranges. Here's why. So the Snyder Cut was a cul-de-sac. All right. That's the whole point. When they made the movie back in 2017, it was bad. It bombed. It did not do well. Only $650 million worldwide. It was not worth the investment, which is why Warner Brothers and DC Films, under the command of Walter Hamada, have started to migrate away from Snyder. Even though they're staying kind of tangentially connected to that world, they are still moving away from that. When they needed to find a way to bring something original and massive to HBO Max, the Snyder Cut movement was the perfect storm to do that in. And as a result of that, they dropped $70 million instead of maybe investing a 90 or up to $150 million on a new property that's going to be DC related to go on to HBO Max. They could take something that was already filmed. They could invest the $70 million. They could finish it up and they could put it out there, and it would probably find a way to make back at least somewhere near that $70 million in actual, like, physical merchandise and physical sales, but also still the money that it pulled in via the impact value that it would have on HBO Max. Remember, we're not talking about specifics here. We're not talking about specifics in regards to like actual financial returns. We're talking about impact value. So we don't know what the impact value of the Snyder Cut for HBO Max was, but what we do know is that they wanted to give fans something for HBO Max that was, supposed to come out with launch, but it came out nearly a year later. Or, well, it was meant to coincide with the launch of HBO Max in order to get people to get subscriptions and then go from there. And that's what it did. It succeeded on that mission. Dune was always going to be a two-parter. Dune is one that is being co-produced via Legendary. So Legendary has the rights. Warner Brothers and Legendary are putting up the money and the distribution. The Snyder Cut was owned by DC Films. DC Films is the one who's going to be distributing through Warner Brothers. And that's a completely different scenario where, it was, again, it's all internally owned or externally owned in the case of Dune, where there's deals there. So yeah, they want to do more with it. Because clearly, as we've seen, $40 million, the largest, highest amount of money earned on a day and date release during the pandemic, I think until Matrix, in 2 months, by the way, that's going to be the big one. So that's what I'm talking about. I think that's, there's that. Siege here says, what if Warner Brothers licenses Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 to Netflix? They won't do that, man. They absolutely will not do that. It'd be interesting. It'll be interesting. But no, because Netflix wanted it, by the way. They did. They wanted it originally. And that's one of the things that prompted when they were negotiating for Army of the Dead. They went out and they inquired about the Snyder Cut, allegedly. And that is allegedly what prompted Warner Brothers to kind of take a step back and go, wait, hold on. another studio actually wants this, maybe we should reevaluate our stance on it. And from there, they opted to make it a bigger deal. I still say this. I still stand by this before we move on to the next story here. The Snyder Cut should have been 6 episodes or 4 episodes or something. It should have been episodic, released week to week, and its impact value would have just exponentially quadrupled over the span of that month, because everybody would have been talking about it, and it would have been bam, 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 bam versus ba-bam. Now, even with that ba-bam, it did really well in regards to VOD and to popularity in other countries. So the Snyder Cut did well, but Warner's was always going to bury it. That was always going to be the plan. And everyone keeps telling me that I'm wrong, and that when Zaslav takes over and the merger is all said and done, it can happen before the end of the year. They're going to come out and they're going to sit there and say, we're moving forward as Zack Snyder. And like, yeah, all right. I'll tell you what, I'll believe it when I see it. How about that? Fourth year says 40 million is astonishing, or is that for COVID? That's for COVID and date, man. COVID and date. That's the big thing here. So, all right, why don't we take a quick look at this article? This was Max wanted me to talk about this earlier. We were going to talk about it before we got into the Ruby Rose thing. But Geekosity, my friend Mikey Sutton's website here, is saying that apparently Disney Plus is discussing an X-Men series for Magneto. So let's see what they say here. A Disney Plus series is being discussed based on the popular X-Men villain Magneto. Ever since Disney bought 20th Century Fox back in 2019, we've been waiting for them to add the Fantastic Four and X-Men into the MCU. However, the only thing solid right now is Fantastic Four, but what about the X-Men? So, let's see. Okay, Geekosity owner Mikey Sutton even reported that James McAvoy might reprise. Okay, so they're talking about Doctor Strange and whatever. So let's get in here to the story. So now we're hearing that one of the most well-known mutant villains, Magneto, is being developed as a show for Disney Plus. Yes, it's the master of magnetism, Eric Lencher. He is sworn to protect mutant kind and the one considered to be Professor X's arch rival. Right now, it's early in the planning stages. Moreover, insiders say it hasn't been greenlit yet. It will still depend on how it will progress in the near future. The series is being built as an origin story in the MCU, and it will have no connection to the Fox movies or the TV series The Gifted, which, man, this was the biggest casualty of the merger in my mind. That show was good. Matt Nix is awesome. I love Matt Nix from Burn Notice. And The Gifted had some good ideas going for it. That kind of sucks. And so another thing is Marvel Studios here is apparently looking to reference Professor Charles Xavier in the show. Now, another thing that I think Mikey said this on Max's stream earlier tonight, is that they are also looking at potentially doing a Charles Xavier origin show that is meant to run concurrently with the Magneto show, giving us kind of like the light side and the dark side of the battle for mutant kind in an ongoing series that is meant to establish the X-Men's, the mutants, everything else, and the world that they're dealing with and how things are dealing with that. And then moving them into probably the big screen stuff with, like, I would assume probably the first movie is going to be Wolverine, right? Or something along those lines. I don't know. But if they're running concurrent shows that are showing us the good and the bad, that's actually like really, really fascinating in my opinion. So we'll have to wait and see whatever happens with this. I don't necessarily know. But I do want to see them, do something like this. Give us a Magneto show. Give us a Magneto hunting freaking, Nazis in Argentina in 1948. Have like that opening of X-Men First Class was still amazing. And I think everyone would lose their shit. And you know what? I mean, dude, bring back Michael Fassbender, man, as Magneto, but give him good material to work with. All right. None of the Apocalypse shit, and none of the fucking dark. Well, he was better in Dark Phoenix, but like he was best in First Class and Days of Future Past. Give us more of that, Michael Fassbender as Eric Lencher, and I think we're going to be in some great spaces. With any luck, we might get that. Who knows? They probably not, because they don't want to have any connection to the Fox movies. But at the same time, that would kind of go a long way to, I think, work really well with fans. I'm just saying. I think that'd go a long way to do that would do pretty well. I don't know. At least that's my particular take on that. But anyway, you guys might think differently. All right, so finally, I just wanted to cover this real quick because I saw this pop up the other day. Amy Pascal is talking about how she reacted to Kevin Feige's Spider-Man pitch. Now, you have to understand here, I have to kind of set this up a little bit, right? Amy Pascal, before the fall of 2014, was like top of her game. Sony Pictures she was the co-president of Sony Pictures. I think like the only female doing it at the time. And, or maybe before at the time, or maybe Diane Nelson was over at DC Films. But anyways, this is Sony. This isn't a subsidiary. This is a major studio. And so Spider-Man was kind of her baby. The Amazing Spider-Man franchise was her baby. She wanted it to be big. She was the one pushing for Ghostbusters 2016. She had ideas and visions for Sony that all kind of came crumbling down, by the way. But when the hack happened, that basically solidified her exit from the company. So now we have to go into February 2015, when Sony and Disney made an incredible deal that meant Spider-Man could join the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because the movie rights to the character had been purchased by Sony in 1999, the studio had made 3 successful Spider-Man movies with critical acclaimed director Sam Raimi at the helm before rebooting the franchise with The Amazing Spider-Man. After the failure of a sequel, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the studio started to look in other directions, which is where the MCU came into play. Now, look, I still, they called the sequel the failure. I just don't like, monetarily speaking, it still made more money than Batman v Superman. Right? It still made more money than Justice League. No, sorry, not Batman v Superman. It made more money than Justice League a number of years prior, before the $1 billion mark became the standard go-to. All right? Like, exactly, I don't know. I still don't think it's that much of a failure. I think it's just like they weren't happy with the way it turned out, but everyone just calls it a failure, and it never gets any pushback, which I think is bullshit, but whatever. All right, so once the deal had been finalized, Tom Holland was cast as the newest version of the web slinger. The Spider-Man rights have always been complicated, and Sony and Disney briefly fell out in 2019. And for a moment, it looked like Peter Parker was about to be web yanked out of the MCU back into a smaller universe. Thankfully, Bob Iger managed to save the character after a drunken call from Tom Holland, and the rest is history. Look, I don't believe this story for 1 minute. I mean, I believe that Tom Holland called Bob Iger drunk, but they were never going to lose the character. They were playing it out in the press. Sony tried to release that statement saying like, oh no, we blame Disney because Kevin Feige was stretched too thin. This 3-tweet thing that was absolute bullshit. It was absolute nonsense. Anyone with half a brain could see through it. Obviously, Disney had the high ground. Disney had the support of the fans, and Disney was just letting Sony sweat until the deal could be made. Tom Holland was relatively irrelevant in all of that, simply because Tom Holland was just the actor and he could be replaced. But it would be better to have this story about how Tom called Bob Iger drunk and convinced him that the 25 now, he would have been 23 then. The 23-year-old is able to convince the CEO and the head of the board, to go out there and find a way to make this work. It doesn't all make sense, right? It doesn't. These are really kind of breaking it down. Really, come on. Now, a new book charting the highs and lows of the Marvel Cinematic Universe reveal how Sony Pictures boss Amy Pascal reacted when Kevin Feige suggested that the wall crawler should join the Avengers. Now, back in the day, I was kind of under the suggestion that Sony had gone to Marvel and had asked about that. I was wrong. I'd always been under that impression. I don't really remember why, but apparently Amy Pascal threw a sandwich at Kevin Feige. So in this new book called The Story of Marvel Studios, The Making of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it goes in depth, right? And it talks about the initial meeting between Sony's Amy Pascal and Marvel's Kevin Feige. The duo had collaborated together for years beforehand, so they had a healthy working relationship, which is why Feige felt he could say that a third Amazing Spider-Man movie wouldn't work. And hey, listen, Feige says it, I recommend it. I would absolutely agree. Feige explained that Sony should let Marvel do the film without Disney purchasing the rights. The only way I know how to do anything is just to do it entirely, so why don't you let us do it? Don't think of it as two studios, he says. No change of hands of rights, no change hands of money, just engage us to produce it. Pascal says that she completely dismissed the idea at first, or saying at first I was super resentful. I think I started crying and I threw him out of my office or threw a sandwich at him. I'm not sure which. Well, yeah, this is her when you're going up to probably one of the most, at that point, probably the most powerful woman in Hollywood. And you're like, hey, listen, you know, this whole thing you've been building towards because you want to compete with us, it's clearly falling apart. You clearly don't know your head from your asshole. I'm your friend of many years. You've worked with me. I've worked underneath you. You know what I'm about. You've seen what I'm able to do. I can do it for you. Here's my plan. No money changing hands. No rights changing hands. Let us just make it. We'll take a little bit out. We'll use the character where we need him. You guys get all this money. And of course she's going to feel challenged. Of course she's going to feel challenged. Of course she's going to feel upset. She's going to feel threatened. She's going to feel absolutely threatened. And then, of course, when it was time for her to jump ship, when those emails came out about her and like the pseudo racist emails that came out, and she was looking to exit the company, she brokered that deal with Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios and put herself as the executive producer and the overseer of the Spider-Man brand in order to basically give herself a golden fucking parachute. She negotiated her way out of a very tight situation and put herself in a very good space to be able to oversee this massive cash cow for the company. So, however, Pascal eventually, I love this here. However, eventually she realized that it made sense, right? Again, like I said, like I just pointed out, there's exact reason why it made sense. It's not because Kevin Feige is an excellent businessman. It's because Amy Pascal ran her mouth in an email and she was going to get yeeted. By the fifth Spider-Man movie, we weren't giving them anything new. She also confessed, and I have to be honest about it. We were trying so hard to be different. We even went into places to be different that we shouldn't have. It helped that Feige had a solid pitch. As Pascal pointed out, the idea of putting him up against a world where everybody had everything and he had nothing was a whole new way of telling the story. And yeah, she's absolutely right on that one, right? The way that they handled it. Now, people out there have been like, oh, Iron Boy 2. Bullshit. It's not. It's good stuff. But anyway, that's that story. I as I explained, there's a little bit of revisionist history here, and there's a little bit of overlooking certain things. But at the end of the day, I think we're all better off as comic book fans. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. Can't wait for No Way Home. I think it's going to be great. So anyway, I do want to hear your thoughts on this one as well. There's a couple super chats here I missed. H-Barts for $2 says Dune should have been filmed altogether. I completely agree. But at the same time, Denny saying that he wanted to have time to go and relax and recharge and come back in and really make the second one a huge movie makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, no one could predict the pandemic. So I don't believe that post-pandemic, we're going to be movies that have sequels intended for them are probably going to start shooting them back to back. Just because they might be able to save some cost up front. And that way it would allow them to have the content in order, in case another variant pops up or there's another deadly pandemic in 10 years, which could entirely happen. So who knows, but we'll have to wait and see. Rational here for $2, buddy. Thank you. Says opinion on the World War Hulk rumors. I talked about those the other day and part of me is okay. Like, I mean, it'd be interesting. I think I would be okay with that, if they did that. I think this would be pretty cool. So, there's that one. Anyway, Mladen here says, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has its problems, but it's not as bad as people making out to be. It's really not. I mean, the villains weren't that great. That was the biggest problem, was that the villains weren't that great. The other side of that too is that, I mean, the death of Gwen Stacy was really good. And it absolutely, I think very much, I think it very much added to the emotional resonance of that movie. And I thought that was one of the better things about it. I like the acting in the movie. I just feel they bit off more than they can chew, and maybe Mark Webb wasn't the best choice. So there's definitely that one. Fourth here saying, give me Michael Fassbender in a good Resident Evil series as Wesker. Yeah, it could be pretty good as that one. But all right, guys. Let's see. We're about an hour and a half in. I do have to get to bed here in a second. So if you guys have any final comments, final questions, or final super chats, I'm just going to put that out there because it's Sunday. Feel free to drop them right now. We'll give about maybe 5 more minutes, and then I'm going to dip. McLeod here saying Candace Owens and others decided to shit on Alec Baldwin and downplay his trauma and all who were on set that day just because he's anti-Trump and dared to make fun of dear leader on SNL. Of course they did. Of course they did. That's what they do. That is what these people do. Empathy doesn't exist in their world. It's only apathy. And how can I use your tragedy to get what I want? You know, here's the thing is, last week, my friend Davide Gasoldi was at that Netflix protest. He's still being talked about. There's a guy there who was with him who I vehemently don't like, who I do not like under any circumstance. And I found out that guy was knocked to the ground and he was attacked. And even I said to Vito, I said, man, that's not good. I'm sorry to hear that, which I am, because I don't wish violence on anybody, even people who I don't like. I don't wish violence on people. Now, I did say the other night that I hope that somebody would slap the shit out of Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers when he was talking about, you know, the whole situation with Alec Baldwin. I don't want anyone to actually do it, but it's like, that's how much they frustrate me, you know? And I'll be honest about that too. Like, so it's like, I don't want anyone to get actually hurt. But like more of a verbal smacking, I think would be okay. They need to wake up a bit. Let's see here. Mitch here says, watching Dune at home is like watching the Lord of the Rings on your phone. You know what's funny is I did watch Lord of the Rings on my phone. So there is that. I have. But of course I did see it in I did see it on the big screen when it came out, and I've seen all of them. No, I didn't see Desolation or the Battle of Five Armies in traditional theaters. I just watched them at the drive-in. So, and I like, they are both fun. No. I think I did go see Desolation in theaters, but not the Battle for Five Armies, because my girlfriend was living in Oregon at the time. I was still in San Diego. So I just went and watched it on my own. I liked it. Filming two back to back is really hard. It just requires a lot more planning, but it's not undoable, especially if they're going to start using the volume for more things. I think it's gonna be okay. Rational here says Dune is really good. Don't listen to these naysayers. Well, yeah, I want to go watch it. I definitely want to watch it. I guess let's see here. We are at 35 likes for tonight, guys. 74 of you here. Do me a solid. Tap on that like. Just tap it on the head. Let me know, when you're gonna finish, and just tap me on the head. No, it does help out. It does help out as more people come into the show and listen. On average, the VODs get about, anywhere between like 1,100 to 14 or 1,500 playbacks. So that's really cool. I appreciate that. If anyone is tuning into this on the replay, thank you again very much. Anyone listening to this live, thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. And we'll definitely. No, I know what you mean. Man, about the about watching it on your phone. I've watched a lot of stuff on my phone. Small homemade movies on my phone, with the sound off and the shower turned way up. Anyway, so there's that. Yvonne here saying, I got a lot of nostalgia in some scenes. Remember Dune 84. I haven't seen Dune 84 in a very long time. So I need to watch Dune 2021 and then watch Dune 84. At least, hey, listen, here's the thing. You can get the whole story of Dune in the 84 version, because it's only 2 hours and 16 minutes long compared to 2 hours and 30 minutes for just part one of this one. So there's that one. But all right, guys, I am going to wrap it up. I'm going to go and watch like the first hour of Dune, and then I'm going to go to bed. And we'll talk again tomorrow night. If you guys have any stories you want me to cover, find me on social media at mjarbo on Twitter. Instagram is real Matt Jarbo. Facebook is 3 Buck Theater. And I'll see you guys all later. Thank you again so much for hanging out with me. Have yourself a great night, everybody, and peace out.